Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome to another Learning Sound and Synthesis Spotlight interview. I'm here today with Paul, and I am so excited. Hi, Paul. Welcome.
Hi.
Hi. We're going to be getting into a lot of really good stuff, talking about how Paul has developed his modular synthesis practice, his music making practice, going from feeling like things were unproductive, frustrating, and feeling like the music that Paul was making just didn't quite feel like him. It's something that I'm sure folks can relate to. I have been there. To getting to a point where he has new confidence in his music making and is working on his first album, right? Or maybe working on a
Yes.
new album. Amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so exciting. So we're going to hear
Yeah.
all about how that happened, what you did to get to that point. But first, I just want to welcome everyone who's watching. If you're watching live, comment, say hello, let us know where you are tuning in from. And before we officially get started, I just want to take a second to send a huge welcome to all of the new students inside of Learning Sound and Synthesis who enrolled for the fall 2023 cohort last week. We're officially up and running. We had our kickoff call on Friday, and it was so amazing to see everyone and to see past students coming back to welcome everyone and to go through the class again. If you're watching this, I just want to say welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm so excited to work with you. I know it's going to be a great cohort. And yeah, let's get started. Okay. So, Paul,
Okay.
can you get us going with a little intro to who you are and what kind of music you make?
Oh, sure. So I'm Paul Clement. I'm here in Mississauga near Toronto for those of you who can't pronounce Mississauga. So I'm right now, I guess I'm making what would be some drone music and I guess melodic ambient. I get a little confused with the many subgenres of electronic music. So when people who don't know this kind of music ask me, I just tell them electronic music, and of course they think which is not what I'm doing at all. But so I've been playing music since I was 8 years old, mostly piano and keyboards and that sort of thing, and got started with modular whenever it was the Moog Mother 32 came out. Um, I had serial number 30 or something like that, so I was an early adopter. And then I got the fever, and I just kept going with it, and enrolled in the LSS course in November, not last year, but the year before, so 21.
Right. So
Yeah.
I shared a little bit while I was introducing you about some of the ways that you described your music making practice before joining Learning Sound Synthesis. But can you talk a little bit about that? Like where you were at, what were you doing? How was it going?
So yeah, I would say before learning sound and synthesis, I was puttering, um, and frankly struggling a little bit. Having a good time. Um, sitting in here for 2 hours listening to feedback, and I call it a feedback bath, and it's great
Yes.
therapy.
Love
um,
that.
but definitely not being very productive, and not um, I, I suppose in a way not moving forward. I mean, I was gradually, adding to my knowledge and, a little bit of confidence and that sort of thing. But I wasn't really serious about trying to finish anything or be productive. I was just trying to have a good time, but I was starting to feel a little bit unsatisfied
Hmm.
with that. And um, I think before that, I think so for me, I don't have a lot of formal music training. So the whole time in my music, career, I've been going by intuition and my sort of innate abilities, such as they are. And um, for me, with modular, you just get to a certain point where you can't, you can only get so far. And I'm sure
Hmm.
other people can do this from their instincts or whatever, but I needed to start thinking more about thinking about what I was doing instead of having happy accidents. Or if I did have a happy accident, could I produce it again? Or how could I take it further? How could I refine it?
Yeah.
How could I make it stop doing that one thing that was bugging me? That sort of
Yeah.
thing, and just wasn't really getting anywhere with that. So that's kind
Gotcha.
of where I was. And then I saw your ad somewhere, probably on Facebook, and kind of took my time deciding to do it, but was glad I did.
Amazing. I'm glad you did too. And what you bring up is so important. I just want to echo this for people who are watching. That sense of intuition that you have got you really far, and so it's working. And um, a lot of people have that, and it's so important to listen to that. And if you have a little a creative voice that's saying like, "Ooh, I wonder what would happen if I did this or this." Go for it. Try it out. Nothing bad will happen. Maybe no sound will come out. That's maybe the worst thing, but you know, you might as well explore, because that's how you develop your own voice and your confidence in yourself. And then to your point, Paul, getting to a time where you solidify all of that intuition and that exploration with like, oh, now I actually have words for all of that. I've heard my
Hmm.
students say that so many times. It's like, I was already doing this all intuitively. Now I know what it's called. Now I know how to do it on purpose, and I know how to repeat it, and I know how to fine tune it so that it's nuanced and precise. And that's
Right.
awesome. It's such a
Yeah.
great like progression that you went on. Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm curious, what after you joined the class, what was that experience like for you? Did you just dive in and go full speed ahead? Were there any things that surprised you? What was the most helpful thing? I'm asking you 10 questions, so you got to answer them all at once. No, I'm joking.
That's
Pick
okay.
pick your answer.
Yeah.
Pick your focus.
Well, I guess, and as I said to you before we went live, I, I guess signed up for the program a, a couple of weeks maybe before it actually began. And so a lot of the materials were available to me. So I kind of dove into a lot of that stuff. Um, and many of the supplementary materials that are not part of the lessons were amazing, and I still refer to them constantly. There's them, I forget exactly what it's called. It's like 100 patch ideas or something
Yep.
like that.
Yeah.
So I went through all of those at the beginning, and this is something I did throughout the lessons as well. I had already started to build my own rack by then, and I wasn't that acquainted with VCV rack. So I was trying to do the 100 patch ideas on my own rack, and I didn't have the same equipment that you had in the lessons. So it became a matter of, well, I'll just try doing it with, my gear, whatever I have. And that really taught me a lot about how to be creative, which is, I guess, something any creative person will understand. Sometimes having limitations imposed on you forces you to be more creative than having every possible option at your disposal. So that was really helpful for me. And then I think a big thing, the program itself and the lessons are fantastic, but the other supplementary material around go explore these pioneering composers from electronic music. This really, and I've always had a very open mind about music, but there was a whole area here, and this ties into my which maybe we'll talk about later, about sort of getting into composition and that sort of thing. Really this epiphany that, okay, look at this thing, right? This doesn't look like a guitar or whatever, right?
Uh-huh.
So, and it doesn't look like anything that we ever made music with in history before. So why do I have to compose a song that's got an 8-bar verse and a chorus and a bridge, and and then a breakdown, and then another verse and chorus? Like, and once that bulb went off for me, and it was a gradual thing throughout the course of the program, and coinciding with the technical confidence. But that's when I really felt like I started to make music that was what I've had inside of me. Whereas before, when mostly playing pop music and a bit of jazz and that sort of thing, and I mean, the only way to sort of be productive with that is playing covers and all of that sort of thing all the time. that was this began to become unsatisfying, and so I would say that would be the surprising thing about the
Yeah.
course, was the all of that other stuff that wasn't part of the lessons, and also the community, which was great, where people who are either intimidating because they're, seem to be so much more accomplished than I am, or struggling with the very same things that I'm struggling with, and universally very supportive group and all of that. And so that just sort of kept you going when you felt like you were struggling with one thing, and maybe I'm not going to be any good at this or whatever. So there was
Yeah.
those were the big things, and then obviously the lessons themselves were very helpful as well.
Amazing. I'm so glad to hear that all of the supplementary resources and materials were helpful for you. And it's really cool to hear that you started by going through the 100 patch ideas resource.
Yeah, I mean, I think I got
cool.
I got to 45, and then it started talking about skew limiters or something, and like, okay, I'm out. I got as far as I could go.
I gotta
on
go
my
to the
own.
course.
I got to go back and take some lessons now, because it just started to become too difficult. Because I mean, even before I had my Moog, you have a basic understanding of. I've been playing synthesizers for a long time, so the basic structures and oscillators and filters and all of that sort of thing. But some of those really esoteric things in modular. Became I had to get some proper instruction about that kind of thing.
Yeah, that makes sense. But then now you can go back to those prompts whenever you're ready with all of that information,
and I do all the time. I this year I did a January, so I don't know if everyone's familiar with that, but you try to do a new piece of music every day, even if it's 30 seconds or whatever. And many days I would take out the 100 patch ideas, because trying to produce a finished piece of music in a day is difficult, even if it's almost nothing, if it's 30 seconds or whatever. So I would refer to that all the time.
Oh, amazing.
And sometimes it didn't work, and I would just, toss it and try another thing, but it was sort of open on my desk all the time.
It would give you somewhere to get started.
Right.
At least to get in motion, and then you decide if you want to stay with that or not. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So for everyone watching, just so you're aware, just in case you don't know what we're talking about, inside Learning Sound and Synthesis, particularly if you're currently enrolled, you may not have seen this yet. Inside Learning Sound and Synthesis, in the bonus area, there are a whole bunch of supplementary resources for you, and some entire little mini courses and extra trainings actually in there as well. One of them, the one that Paul's talking about, is called 100 Prompts for Creative Patching, I think is what it's called. And it's a huge PDF resource that you can download. As the name suggests, it has 100 different prompts to help you get started in making music. Sometimes they're technical, like use an LFO to do these 3 things. Other times they're more conceptual, like here are 8 small little drawings, choose 2 of them and make something that sounds like those in an abstract way. So they range from pretty conceptual to very technical and everywhere in between. And that's there for you. So go ahead, download it, and flip to a random page whenever you're feeling stuck. Or another thing that some students do that's kind of cool is they combine multiple pages together to make a whole patch. So they'll choose one thing from the oscillator section and one thing from the, some other section, and merge them together and see what that comes up with. So pretty cool.
Yeah, highly recommended for sure.
Thank you for sharing that. So can you tell us about you mentioned briefly the January thing, which is awesome. So in any way that you want to get into it, I'm really curious to hear about the biggest takeaways or the biggest shifts that you feel like you've had in your music making practice, whether they are technical, like your ability to build a patch or make music or something like that, or there's something more mindset related, or however you want to get into that. What stuck out for you?
I guess it would be both.
Okay. Yeah.
So the technical confidence, I think, is just tremendous, because you can keep moving forward, even if you're. There's almost like it's like 2 pillars or something like that. The days when you come into the music room and you don't have the creative fire going, work on technical things, right? And then you just have to show up and do the work. And sometimes it doesn't pan out, and other times it does. And then sometimes, halfway through your day, if you've been grinding it out and just trying different ideas and patching, then something will strike you. And so that part of having that technical confidence to come and still put the time in, even when you don't have the muse whispering in your ear or whatever, was really tremendous. And that's just going through the course and the way the course is laid out, and it is forcing you to do new things constantly, without being overwhelming, and you can always pause and stay on something until you get it, and that kind of thing. So from the technical side of it, that's something that really was a huge leap for me. And in hindsight, thinking about paying whatever it was for the course, I don't even remember, but somewhere in your materials you said it's the cost of one module, and that turned out to be so true. Just like the amount of value I got out of that, instead of buying another oscillator or something like that, is really great. So there's the technical part of it, and then I think
actually,
creatively,
I
sure.
hate to interrupt you because you're on such a good flow, but I just want to say, are you good at holding a thought in your head? Will I derail you? Okay,
No,
you're going on to
okay.
the creatively. I'm going to do this really quick.
Okay.
I just want to tell people what Paul said. I want to make sure everyone heard it. You've just got to show up. I just couldn't let that moment go by without re-emphasizing it. Sometimes there will not be creative juices flowing, or the muses won't be speaking to you or whatever, but the best thing you can do for your practice is to show up. And I don't know about you, Paul, but I put it in my calendar. Like, I will schedule my creative time and I will treat it like it is the most important meeting on my calendar. Like, I'm going to get fired or something if I don't show up to that 1 hour meeting or 30-minute meeting with myself. And I sit in my studio, even if I'm like drawing every blank in the world and I don't want to be there and the technical stuff isn't working, whatever it is, I sit there and I just do something to keep the practice moving. And I'm a really big believer in the compound effect of showing up over and over and over again. Every single individual session might not be fireworks. It might not lead to finished music, but the compound effect of doing it every week or 3 times a week or every day, that will change your life. And pretty quickly, like, you'll look back 3 months from now and be like, oh my God, like 30 minutes a day for 3 months. And you could have an album under your belt and happening. Anyway,
Right.
I wanted to go back to you. You were about to say, you were talking about the technical stuff. You were going to go into the creative, maybe more mindset related changes.
Yeah. And, I do want to just comment on something you were just saying too, and about maybe you've got 30 minutes or an hour, and something that I have actually picked up from some of the other things I do in my life, is to spend some time thinking about the space you're working in, and make sure that and you may touch on this in the program as well, I can't actually remember, but remove barriers that prevent you from moving forward. And that's been extremely valuable for me. When I'm not down here, I have a wood shop at my house, and I'm out there. And so if I can't get my hands on something in 20 seconds or something like that, then I fix that. And I've taken, and I mean, we've all been through the 10, 20 reorganizations of our racks and our space, and where are the cables and all that stuff. But it's really worth spending time on, because when you do only have that hour, and like the last thing you want to do is or you're in the groove, and then you've got to stop for 10 minutes to go find something or something like that. And then it's just a buzzkill or whatever, right? So that's time really well spent doing that kind of thing. Yeah.
Couldn't agree more. Label your power supplies, keep things organized.
Right.
It'll be really annoying for now doing it, but then tomorrow when you're like, ooh, there it is, you're going to thank yourself.
Yeah.
Big time.
I'm a total dweeb with I have this little P-Touch thing that prints out the little labels that you stick on.
I love it.
Everything is labeled, and all the cables and everything like that, because I've wasted too much time, finding a short or whatever it was. So anyway, yeah. But so the sort of the creativity and the risk taking, I think I would sort of go back again to thinking about having my eyes open to the real electronic music, as I like to call it, which maybe is a bit offensive to some people, but some of these great composers who laid the foundations for everything that we're able to do today, and thinking about the new ways there are to make music and to compose. A lot of the things you talked about in the program about, here's my score, and it looks like, a child's sketch or something, right? Like whatever it is, like we don't have to have the musical staff and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And there's one thing I think that was in the program, and I can't remember now, but one of the guests you had written a piece for a modular orchestra, and there was no music. It was really just descriptions of start with a pulsating sound in a low register, and then the second person add something that is opposite to this or whatever. I mean, it was very vague like that, and so the piece would never be the same. And those were the kind of things where it was like an explosion of like the way my mind just opened up to what kinds of things I could do with music, and then simultaneously discovering contemporary artists that are sort of working in this manner as well. Tim Hecker was a big one for me that really kind of opened my mind to the kind of things that we can do. And then actually seeing the size of his fan base, it's like, okay, there are people who want to hear this kind of music, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of put wind in my sails, just to see that kind of music is possible and that people like it. And so that really kind of, as I said, it kind of lit a fire under me. And then there were many technical things as well, like the idea that in the rack, everything that's going through a cable is voltage, and then it can do just about anything. And there's just a little idea of even like one day I was playing with a drum loop on a sample, and I put the audio into the pitch control, the volts per octave, into an oscillator, which I would have never conceived of before.
Yeah.
And it gave me this amazing thing that I basically sat and, listened to all day, and it's going to be in one of my tracks that's coming up.
Amazing.
So it just, I feel like I'm rambling now and I'm not really on topic, but, it's just like all of those things sort of happening at once, and so in that way, I felt like the course it's kind of greater than the sum of its parts. If you try to just let it all in and really look at everything, and even just and I never heard anyone use the term before, but when you kept saying creative practice, that really, you're not just playing music, and especially when you're trying to create, and it's actually more than that. And that's when it's not like an activity, it's something that's part of you and something that you need to do when you change your thinking about that. Change your thinking about making music in that way. So that was, all of those things were really, really beneficial for me. So amazing. I hope when someone listens to my music now, they don't think it's ordinary or whatever, because after I've said all of this, that's just the journey that I'm on now too, right? And just trying to explore all the different ideas and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
Of which there are many. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, thank you so much for sharing this. I can relate to the feeling of discovering, even decades into being a musician, discovering what music could be all over again. I really can relate to this. Like I have a extensive background as a classical trumpet player, and before that, a pianist, and I was conservatory trained, classical trained, orchestral path. And I felt like I had a whole definition of music. Like I thought I understood what music was. And it turns out, like any creative discipline, there's no way to define it. There is no one way to ever say, this is music, this is art, this is whatever, right? It's all just a matter of looking at it from a new angle and asking a question and going, but what could it be like this? What is musical form? What is melody? Like maybe it could be upside down. It's just like taking this object and that you've always looked at this way and just being, well, what if I do this with it? Like, where might that lead me? And it sounds like some of the things you were saying, Paul, is that being exposed to these various ways of thinking were kind of like a little bit of a permission slip for you to try it in your own practice, which is definitely how I felt early on when I was being exposed to all of these different adventurous composers and painters and artists who were redefining the boundaries of what music was.
Right.
I was like, I felt this huge wave of like permission granted to just be me. And it was like totally life-changing. I mean, it was a big deal. So I really wanted to put that into learning sound and synthesis. So it's not just about here's how to plug things in to make cool sounds, but I mean, we do a lot of that, but also so that it's, and now what? And now run with this and be you and find your voice.
Yeah. There's a lot of that in the program, right? And that's sort of in talking about the more sort of abstract kinds of things. And it really, I felt, you know, I gave myself permission to be weird.
Yes.
And, you know, and that was like a big thing, you know, and some of it is just weird, but some of it is, you know, music that I like. And to me, that's the most important thing, is that I'm making things that I like now.
Yeah.
I actually got earwormed by my own piece the other day, which I was kind of like, you know, earworms usually drive me crazy, but I, you know, and because I was listening, you know, I'm sort of doing some mixing right now, and so I'm listening to things when I'm walking and all of that. And yeah, I was making dinner and I had the piece playing back in my mind, so that was
oh, I love that.
That's when I felt like, oh, maybe it's pretty good, because if it's, you know, if it's earworming me, maybe it'll do the same for someone else. So,
absolutely. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
We've been dancing around this album you're making. Can we talk about it? Can you tell us?
Sure. So,
more?
Yeah. So, you know, I've been trying to make electronic music for a long time, even before I got into modular. And after I started learning sound and synthesis, and I was really like in a groove over the course of last winter, and I went and did January. And so again, you know, you're trying to make a piece of music every day, and then I didn't look at it for months, because I had moved on to other things, and I thought, okay, I'm going to go back and listen to some of those things now. And I actually felt like some of it was pretty good, and there was a lot of good stuff to build from. And even some not to build from. My focus on this first record that I'm going to release is mostly just a live performance off my rack with a few cleanup things and mixing and that sort of thing, as opposed to doing a lot of editing and overdubs. And that's just what I want to do right now.
Sure. Great.
But when I compared that stuff to what I had been doing before, the things when I sat down to be a composer, they tended to be overcooked. They were, they didn't have any sparkle to them. And I was doing too much. I was trying to do too much and trying to, you know, make this piece of music that meant something. And whereas when I put myself on the clock doing January, I just forced myself. I'm just trying to be creative, and I'm not, you know, I've got to put this out today, so I have to finish it. I can't overthink it. And that was a huge lesson for me, that my work was better, in my opinion. And at least it was more satisfying to me when I didn't have time to overcook everything and overthink it and go back and, well, maybe I shouldn't have done this. I'm going to change it. And then in the past, I had been spending a lot of unproductive time down that path of trying to make things perfect. This is something I'm applying to my woodworking practice as well, where the imperfections are part of the work now. And it's, you know, it's part of me that's gone in there, and no one can be perfect anyway. So that was a big thing. And so I found, out of the 31 things, I found 10 pieces that I found to be worth working more on. And so I'm kind of mixing those right now. And then I'm partway through the patch to polished year program. So I want to get all the rest of the way through that, and then just decide if I'm going to try to do everything myself, or outsource some of the the finishing bits on it, but I hope to have it out by the end of the year.
Amazing.
Yeah. And then
That's so exciting.
I have my ideas for the next 2 things as well that I want to do. The
Of
next
course you
2
do.
records. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Everything you just shared about the embracing the imperfections and letting them be there because it's part of you, that is powerful. That is like I hope that after we finish this live stream, everyone goes back and rewatches that couple sentences, because that is gold. Like, no one can be perfect. Even if we could, perfect is just, what is that? That's boring. That's not
It is boring.
lively
Yeah.
and exciting. And what makes you and your music sound authentically like you is going to be all of it, including your flaws and imperfections. And that's what's going to make it so, meaningful. So I think that's really awesome. And also just realizing that when you let yourself flow, I love the analogy of not overcooking. I mean, it makes so much sense when you think of food, right? Like if you overcook it, it ruins it. And that's such a great parallel with music. If you just season things lightly, you just, make quick decisions, trust your instincts. Yep, that looks done. Go enjoy your meal. Don't let it sit there for 4 hours on the stove until it's like a hard rock.
Yeah.
Don't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's so good. Okay, I'm going to share a link to your SoundCloud, one of your pieces. Is that okay with you if I drop that in the comment?
Absolutely.
In the
Yeah.
Okay. So this is, for everyone watching, this is a link to one of Paul's pieces on SoundCloud. And we're just going to have to stay tuned to hear more about that album, but I can't wait. Please share it with us when it is out.
I would love to.
Oh, I'd love to hear it. And before we wrap up today, I want to extend an invitation to anyone who's watching. If this conversation is resonating with you, if you are sitting there going, this is what I want to do. I want to make music that sounds more like myself. I want to learn my instruments and make electronic music. If this is resonating with you, I would love to invite you to check out my program, Learning Sound and Synthesis. There is a link to the waitlist page in the post description, and I'm going to put it again here in the comments. And if you're curious, you can hop onto the wait list so that you are notified when the next round opens, which will be in the spring of 2024. And in the meantime, if you're looking for ways to get started because you want to get going now, I do have a ton of free resources, tutorials on YouTube, all kinds of things like that. I post things on my Instagram channel all the time and Facebook. So send me a message saying, hey, I want to get started with Modular Synths. Where can I start? And I'll get back to you with a bunch of cool things to get you going and up and running. Okay, Paul, anything else you want to say? Anything you want to share before we wrap up for today?
I would just say, if anyone is going to listen to that piece, the one I linked to you is pretty much done, but there's most of the other tracks in there are not really done, but you can still get an idea of where I'm trying to go with my music from listening to that. And yeah, again, I would just encourage anyone who's got cold feet about going in. It's really the program is really well done and really worth it, and you're going to also make some new friends who are your people, who are into the same kind of stuff that you're in, and that's worth a lot too.
Yeah, I've been welcoming new students all week into the forum and re-welcoming old students back into the new cohort, because when you join, you have lifetime access to all of learning sound and synthesis. That's something that sometimes people don't realize, and they feel urgency and stress about getting through it quickly. But when you enroll in LSS, you have lifetime access. And that means if you're a past student and you're watching this right now and you want to join us for the fall 2023 round, you can do that. You don't have to do anything special. You just show up to the calls and you're always welcome to be there. So like Paul said, it's an amazing community, and it gets more and more vibrant with every cohort as it just continues to grow and get stronger. Okay, well, thank you, Paul, for sharing so many amazing thoughts with us. Everything that you shared about your journey and the the mindset shifts about embracing risk taking and just getting more into creative flow, and all of that is so valuable. I know for myself, I got a lot out of this interview, and I'm sure other people did as well.
Well, thank you so much. It was fun.
Yeah. And thanks for watching, everyone. Stay tuned for more news on Paul's album. Now you've got a good accountability boost from all of us, eager to hear
which I need. Yeah.
Yes. Can't wait to celebrate that with you when it is released. Remember, don't overcook your mixes. If you feel like they're good, they're probably ready to go. And it's time to let go of that project so you can move on to the next thing that's already starting to go on there. Okay.
For sure.
All right.
Thanks so much.
Bye for now, everyone. Take care.